This is a love letter to my dear teacher friends. Education is ReDreaming, and today we're going to talk about neurodivergent learners, microschools, and why your yes matters. Because as teachers, we've all felt it. The classroom feels heavier, the needs feel more complex, the system feels more brittle, and you're standing in the middle of it, wondering if you're the problem or if the system is just too small for what kids actually need. So in this episode of ReDream Education, I'm talking directly to you, the teacher who feels the tension between staying, leaving, and stepping into something new, like a microschool, homeschool hybrid, or a totally different way of serving kids. We're going to name the crisis honestly, looking at what's happening with neurodivergent learners and unpack why microschools and hybrid models are exploding right now, and what it could look like for you to step out in obedience even when it's scary. Welcome to the ReDream Education Podcast. I'm Mackenzie Oliver, Microschool founder, educator, coach, and believer in the power of starting small, dreaming boldly, and rebuilding the future of education one courageous step at a time. If you're here, it's because something in your life, your classroom, your family, your child, your community, or your calling is asking for a new dream, a wiser dream, a ReDream. This podcast is where we challenge the old models, rethink what learning can be, and build innovative pathways for children, families, and communities. Each week, you'll gain the systems, strategies, stories, and soul work you need to design personalized learning, understand how education is changing for the better, start or scale a microschool, lead with confidence, make a change for your family, and create an education model that actually works for today's world. Because you aren't just dreaming of something different, you are building it. This is a space where we re-envision what school can be, reimagine how children learn, and rebuild the systems that were never designed to meet the needs of our future and current generation. This is a podcast to ReDream Education as we share insights, strategies, stories, and tools to teach our children better, transform learning at home, support innovative education models, and invest financially or personally in the future of students everywhere. Because you aren't just dreaming about a better education, you're part of the movement to create it. Welcome to the ReDream Education Podcast. This is where the future begins. When we started Lighthouse Learning in our living room, with 6 students and 2 of my own, we had the typical student. We had one student who was gifted and was really struggling with school prior to coming to Lighthouse Learning, and they actually were set free. I remember the parent telling me that their child had to miss recess because they weren't finishing their work, but yet they were a gifted learner, bright, vivacious, adorable. And really, truthfully, not many other students that we had at our house had any other type of neurodivergent need other than the occasional, I don't want to read, I don't like reading, I'm struggling with math. That's pretty typical, right? Now, when we first started, that's how our students kind of had this perception from when they had left their original school. But lo and behold, after that first year, man, oh man, did these students love coming to Lighthouse Learning. I really couldn't understand why, because I'm thinking, why do they want to come to my house when they could be riding the big yellow school bus and they could go to this big school that has all these other things that I feel like I cannot offer them? But right now, it's very important for you to understand that there are typical students and there are very, very large cases of neurodivergent learners. And this is why the model that is old isn't working. According to Education Week, right now, roughly 1 in 5 children in the U.S. are estimated to be neurodivergent. Students with ADHD, learning differences, autism, or other unique ways of processing the world. That's those who have been identified. But I can tell you, in our microschool experience, there are more than 1 in 5. They just have not been identified. And about 15% of public school students According to the National Center for Education Statistics, which means 7.5 million children, about 15% of public school students, receive special education services under the IDEA, and that number has risen steadily over the past decade. Now, the CDC estimates that about 1 in 31 children has autism spectrum disorder. Most of us were never trained, resourced, or supported unless you had a specific ESE background. And none of us really were prepared for this reality to scale. And yet, every day, we stand in front of classrooms full of wildly different brains and are handed one pacing guide, one curriculum, and one set of testing expectations. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about why the one-size-fits-all feels like failure for you and your students, how neurodivergent learners are not a problem to be fixed, but a design signal that school must change, and how smaller environments, flexible structures, and relationship-first models better serve these kids. There's also the rise of homeschooling and hybrids and microschools. And this isn't just a feeling. The data backs it up with what you have been sensing. These are real numbers. According to the National Center of Education Statistics, homeschooling grew dramatically after 2020 and has stabilized at around 5 to 6% of students, up from about 3.7% before the pandemic, which shows us homeschool hybrids are an incredible resource. In 2024-2025 school year, homeschooling grew at an average rate of 5.4%, nearly triple pre-pandemic growth, which means 36% of reporting states hit record homeschool enrollment. And this is according to JHU, Institute for Education Policy. Researchers also estimate that there are about 3.1 million homeschool students in 2021 to 2022, up from 2.5 million in 2019. This is according to nheri.org. Homeschool hybrids, where students attend class part of the week and learn at home the rest, are not fading out. They are accelerating in number and diversity, and researchers say that the popularity of this model now appears unlikely to be a short-term fad. Microschool surveys also show extremely high parent satisfaction. In one recent survey, 76% of parents were very satisfied with their child's school choice experience, and another 17% were somewhat satisfied. This is according to EdChoice. The survey says microschools are meeting family needs. Parents are not just being difficult. They are voting with their feet. They are leaving because of a hunger for personalized learning and smaller environments, safety concerns and mental health strain, dissatisfaction with the academic quality and the school's culture, and a desire for flexibility that fits family lives and values. So in this episode, I want to connect the dots so that you can see that you're not crazy for feeling like the old system isn't working. The data agrees with you. So if you are the teacher who feels the nudge to step out, I want to talk to you about obedience. That inner nudge you feel when you know you're supposed to step into something different, but everything in you is terrified. I want to acknowledge the grief of leaving a school, a staff, or your identity that you've invested years in. And there is this guilt of abandoning students or colleagues, even though you're not. And we have to normalize the fear of finances and benefits and starting from scratch. There is a spiritual and emotional reality of saying yes to a call that doesn't make sense on paper. You're not stepping into a void, you're stepping into a global movement. There are microschool founders, homeschool hybrid leaders, and innovative educators that are already doing this, and you can learn from them. There are communities and frameworks and coaching, like in our Microschool Masterminds program, built specifically to support you so you don't have to figure everything out alone. There is a reason why hybrids and microschools are so prevalent and how they really do help solve the crisis. Microschool models and homeschool hybrids, they are exploding. They honor neurodiversity with flexible pacing, smaller groups, sensory-aware environments. They allow parents and teachers to partner, not to compete. They really do create a margin for project-based learning, life skills, trades, deeper relationships. And What I have found is they are nimble enough to adapt when children's needs change rather than forcing kids to conform to a rigid system. Are they perfect? No. Do they require courage, planning, and accountability? Absolutely yes. But I truly believe the education crisis will not be solved only from the top down. It will be solved by teachers and parents who are willing to redream what school can be like at the local level. One takeaway that I have for you today, teacher friend, is if you remember nothing else from this episode, you remember this. You do not have to burn out inside of a system that wasn't built for today's learners. You are allowed to redream how you teach, where you teach, and who you teach. And there is a growing movement ready to walk that road with you. This is ReDreaming Education. And we need your yes. If you are ready to redream and you need the community, you need the accountability, you need the weekly coaching, then step into Microschool Masterminds, because there we go dig deep into what this actually is for you, your life, your family, your finances, your freedom. Because when you say yes, more people say yes. And when more people say yes, more children's lives are transformed. That's your kids, that's your grandkids, that's your nieces, that's your nephews. This is the future. It is time to redream education and to actually take that next step. Join us in Microschool Masterminds every single week for live group coaching, self-paced modules, and of course, a powerful community. Head on over to ReDreamEducation.com/masterminds and join us in our free Facebook group at ReDream Education Microschool Community. To learn more, that's ReDreamEducation.com/masterminds.